Hello again. This video is going to be about downward facing dog. So this is a full body pose. So in this pose we are looking at what we call axial elongation, which basically is lengthening the spine. Just a posh word of saying lengthening through the spine, axial elongation. It was sort of drilled into us on yoga teacher training. So that's lengthening through the spine. We're also getting some rotation and some opening of the shoulders, strengthening the legs, the ankles, the feet, the knees, opening up the back of the legs. So it is a full body pose. It's also a strengthening for the arms and the shoulders as well. So again, before I wouldn't go straight into this pose without doing some warm up of some of the joints. So again, like cat-cow that I did earlier, rotation through the wrist, getting a lot of movement through the wrists, rolling through the shoulders. So anyway, rolling through the shoulders, you can bring the shoulders up to the ears and then let them go, taking the arms up overhead, bringing them back down, taking them behind, interlacing the hands and lengthening them down the back to open those shoulders. Just getting some movement and some warmth and blood flow in that joint. So however, I'll put my teeth in, however you wish to do that, I would also get some movement in the feet. So you could come onto all fours and tuck the toes, sitting back on the heels, bringing the feet forward, bringing the body forward over the wrists. Or you can even just lie down on the ground, bringing those knees in and doing some rotations of the feet. You can do the hands at the same time if you wish. Lengthen through the arms, dropping the shoulders down. You can rotate the wrists. Oh, if there's some clicking and clacking, I don't know whether you heard that crunch of one of my ankles. Taking the toes and the hands down, bringing them back. And then you can scrunch the hands and the toes, spread the toes and the fingers wide, giving the hands a little bit of a shake. You can even shake out the feet. Just getting any sort of movement you can into those joints. So coming back down to the ground, first off we're going to find all fours. So knees under hips, wrists under shoulders, there's a micro bend in those elbows, and the hands are not solidly flat on the ground. Make sure that you feel like you've got a little hollow underneath. So underneath the palm there's a little hollow, as if you're protecting a little insect or something like that. And the resistance sort of more comes from the edge of the thumb and the little finger. So tuck the toes, tuck those toes under. Another way of opening the toes I've just thought of is you can sit back and kneel up on the feet. Now this can be quite intense for the toes, so if you're not used to that or you've got any issues with your toes, take it gently. Work within your body's limits. Coming back to all fours. And we're just going to start to press through the hands and the toes and float the knees off the ground. And then drop them back down. Sit back a little bit further. Try it again. Float the knees off the ground. Feel like you're leaning into the hands as opposed to really pressing them tightly. And then lower down. Sitting back again. Floating the knees. Have we dumped all that weight into the hands? This makes my thighs burn, by the way, in case you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on with my thighs? And then coming all the way back, floating the knees off. So the hands are out in front, fingers are spread, toes are tucked. Leaning into those hands, pressing through those toes, we start to lift the knees and take the tailbone towards the sky, keeping a good bend in the knees. So check in with the feet, they're hip width apart, or maybe a little bit wider. You work with your own body, have a play. But there's a good bend in the knees, the spine lengthens, there's a gentle softness in the elbows, the head just hangs. And then slowly just return back down to the ground. Just sitting back on those heels, you can even just release, come up, give the hands a little bit of a release and a little bit of a shake. And then we'll play with it again, sitting back. Now, if you can't get into downward dog from here, then come back up. Start where you can. If it's easier for you to start here, lift the knees, take the tailbone, lengthen the spine. You drop the heels down, but we're keeping a good bend in those knees. Sending the chest down towards the thighs. And then coming again, back down to the ground. You could even try walking the hands a little bit further forward, sitting back on the heels or coming up from all fours. Press through the hands and the feet, tailbone lifts, heels go down towards the ground, knees are bent, micro bend in the elbows, the head just hangs. You could even take some movement, dropping one foot down as you bend the other knee. You could come up onto the toes, drop the heels, bend the knees. Coming back down to the ground. Now a lot of the time, when we look at this pose or we see this pose in books or maybe in other classes or have been taught in a different way, it's all fine. Everybody teaches in a different way. You may see that people are trying to get their legs straight and heels flat on the ground. Start off, I'm not built like that, so it's never going to really happen, I don't think. I haven't got the length in my hamstrings. I've got big calves and I've got big hamstrings and I haven't got the length in them to do that. But also, it's not actually good for the joints to lock things out. So I teach it with a bend in the knees. And when you've got a bend in the knees, you can get more length in the spine. It is more about that spinal axial elongation, the length in the spine, than it is about keeping the legs straight. Normally when you've got your legs straight, there's a curve in the spine and we're not actually elongating it. You know, the things to watch out for are the neck is relaxed, that the head is just let loose and free, that we've not got any tightness or stiffness, we're not looking up and compressing that neck again and making that neck shorter in any way. We're keeping that long, it's the length of the spine. It's also like if you have difficulties with your wrists and your hands, you could do it on forearms. So you could come down to the forearms, start from here, so lower down, wrists and hands on the ground, fingers are spread, pressing through the hands and the toes again and lifting up from here, keeping a bend in the legs, lengthening down. And you still get that long spine, the tailbone is lifting up, so imagine the pelvis lifting and separating. That's a sort of sense you want to get, that the pelvis lifts, the tailbone lifts and separates. It's just an image to get in the mind really, more than like, you know, you're not going to break the pelvis, it's not going to split in two or anything like that. It's just to get an idea, a sense. Like when you're up there, imagine somebody has got their hands just on your bony part, the asis bones here, and is lifting up and pulling back, lifting up and pulling back gently. And don't forget to breathe. Do not forget to breathe. There is so much There's so much going on in this pose, so much going on in this pose. And it takes, I don't know, I was going to say it takes ages to master. I don't think we master it. I think we just adapt it and change it and work with it. Some days it will be fluid, some days it will be stiffer. You know, we have good days and bad days. So some days it's going to work, some days it's not going to feel as good. But you do get to love it. You do get to love to feel that lengthening through the back of the body. The head release. Press through the outside edge of those little fingers and feel those shoulders open a little bit more. Lift that tailbone a little bit more to the ground, sky, sorry. And then coming back down to the ground. You can just take a little rest, release those wrists. So have a play with downward facing dog. It could be a bit of a nemesis pose, but I think you will learn to love it. If you've got any questions, you want to ask me anything about it or just clarify anything, please drop me a line and we can have a chat. Okay, enjoy downward facing dog.